Hello there, my name's Annette with Sunbeam Fabric Art. Welcome to my channel. Today we are starting a sampler quilt along. This is going to be similar to the wedding dress sampler quilt that we're working on. However, we're going to be using scraps and leftovers instead of the wedding dress. I'll be making 2 of each of my blocks for this sampler. This will be block number 1. I'll leave a cutting guide in the description of this video. For this block, I need to make some 4 patches, so I am going to use 2.5-inch strips, a light and a dark, and I am going to make those into 4 patches. Then I'm going to be cutting some 4.5-inch squares from the 2 fabrics you see here, the lighter and the darker. For each block, I need 1 of the lighter 4.5-inch squares. You can see that I'm cutting 2 because I am going to make 2 of this block. For the darker fabric, you'll want 4 4.5-inch squares, and you'll see that I am cutting 8 because I'm making 2 blocks. My first step is to sew my 2.5-inch strips together, and I'm placing those right sides together. When I sew these 2 together with a 1/4-inch seam, that width is now going to be 4.5 inches. I took this strip set to my iron and I pressed it open towards the dark side. Next, I'm going to cut the strip set into 2.5-inch widths. I use a horizontal line on my ruler to line up with my seam so that I get a nice 90-degree angle on my cut. For 1 block, you should have 8 of these units. For 2 blocks, you should have 16. To make our 4 patch, we need to take 2 of our units. We want the dark sides to be opposite each other. We are going to flip these right sides together, and we're going to use the nesting technique to lock the seams. And if you move your fingers around on that seam, you will feel those seams catch and lock in place. And then we're just going to sew a 1/4-inch seam. If you did a great job on your 1/4-inch seams, you may not need to trim these at all. I do like to trim them, so I am going to be trimming these squares down to 4.5 inches. To do that on a 4 patch, I'm getting the cross where the seams meet in the middle, and I want to line that up with 2.25 inches on my ruler. When trimming the opposite 2 sides, I can use the 4.5-inch line on my ruler as well as that 2.25 line. You can see there is not a lot of fabric being trimmed off here. Now it's time to lay out this sampler block. We're taking those 4 patches, those are going to be on the outside corners, and I am putting the dark color towards the middle of the block. Next, I'm placing my 4.5-inch square of the lighter fabric in the middle, and then the darker fabrics filling in the other spaces. Next, we'll stitch these blocks together row by row, and then we'll put each of the 3 rows together. First, I take the top row, the left 2 units, and I'm going to place those right sides together and stitch a 1/4-inch seam. Then I took the leftmost 2 units from row 2, did the same thing, and I'm chaining here. As you can see, I'm keeping it all together. Then I grabbed the leftmost units from row 3, also stitched those right sides together. And I repeated this for the second block. As I separated these units, I laid them out right where they go into my block pattern. Now I can add that 3rd unit to each row. To put these rows together, I'm going to be using my clips, and again, I'm going to be using the nesting technique. And here is our finished sampler block number 1. And I'm using scraps in this, so I really don't have a plan of how this quilt will turn out, but we shall see. And last, I wanted to put this side by side with the wedding dress sampler. It's the exact same block, but it's done with the lights and the darks arranged a little bit differently. So you can see it's quite a different look. Thanks so much for joining me today. I hope you had fun. I sure did. And I hope to see you back again real soon.